Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Moyna Bass Fishes. I am Jim Moyna. In this video we're going to recap the competition here at the St. Croix River. This would be for the 2024 Champions Tour regular season event. Alright, so going into this tournament, I practiced 6 days, and I've never fished a tournament here before. So 6 days should be plenty of time to get on plenty of fish to put in a decent finish. At least that's what I felt. I felt with my experience, with just my knowledge, my just been around, putting in the time. I figured that, that should at least be a minimum of a money finish. Well, that did not happen. I finished 34th place out of, it was either, a full field 65 boats. I don't know if they had that. They might have had 64, but anyways, the point is I finished 34th after 6 days of practice, and that's just not good. I'm kind of humbled in a way. Again, my ego's hurt because I just feel like I should catch the fish better than what I did. So anyways, and I stuck around the way and just to hear what the leaders would say when they get on stage, and that just hurt my ego even more to hear what they said, because entire bait categories that I eliminated, for example, chatterbait, I completely eliminated the chatterbait. I'm like, no, that's not working here. And one of the guys in the top 10 got up there and said, boy, if it wasn't for the fact that I changed your chatterbait, I never would have made my late comeback to make it into the top 10. And I'm like, yeah, you gotta be kidding me. And then, other guys using swim jigs to make, big finishes, guys using, just another guy's, I think he finished third. Evan, I forget his last name, Blakely it might be, I'm not sure. But he's talking about, just using heavy rods and a jig for the smallmouth he was catching. And I'm like, gosh, that sounds like me, 20 years ago. But there was one guy that Noah Schultz. He got up there and said he was using small swim baits and stuff, and I don't know what else he said, but it sounded like he's more in line with the finesse approach I took. And I think Noah finished 5th. Another guy that finished 11th. He was telling me he caught a lot of his fish on crappie jigs, and so that's another finesse guy. So there was more than one way to do it out here. Obviously, I went with the finesse approach, and it wasn't so much that my finesse approach was wrong. I think it was my efficiency with time and where I spent it. That was probably my downfall. After 6 days of practice, you have so much in your head and so many places where you could consider going, that you start selecting just secondaries, places where I caught a couple over here. Well, that's not what got it done in this tournament. What got it done in this tournament was pulling up on a spot that was had a lot of fish, or a stretch of shoreline that had a lot of fish. Another guy said he got it done on docks. Well, I knew docks was a pattern. I love fishing docks, but I never really went after it. I did catch some fish. I did weigh some fish off of docks in the tournament. In fact, I think I weighed four fish off of one certain dock, 2 in the morning session, then I went back there in the afternoon section, caught 2 more, along with a couple non-keepers. So, and one of my favorite stretches of docks I never even got to fish, because in the morning session, somebody went there first right away, so I'm like, okay, I can't do that. And then in the afternoon session, you reverse the field. So, boats 1 through 65 go out in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Then the afternoon session, you reverse the order. You go 65s first, 64, 63, 62, on down the line. So in the afternoon session, well, I passed up on a prime spot that had a lot of smaller fish with the idea I was going to go to the stretch of docks that had quality fish. And also there seemed to be a decent number of them, maybe not as many as this other spot, but maybe, but some decent ones. So I go down, get there, and there's already 2 boats there. So, and then I didn't bother going back up river to where that other spot was. I started going to some secondary water, and I just killed time on the secondary water and never really my first spot in the morning I never even went to in the afternoon session, and that had I don't know what happened. In practice, that place was on fire, and I was surprised nobody started there on the first, right away in the morning. I got it, and this is a busy place right now. There's, I don't know if you can see the big playground over there. There's a bus leaving with a bus load of kids. So anyhow, yeah, all these secondary places that I fished, they were time killers. They sent me deeper into the hole. I was in 15th place after the morning session. I had 14 fish in the morning session. I was hoping to get a few more than that. I mean, obviously you always hope for more, but it was still, I could still recover a really good finish with, based on what I did in the morning, and I really thought I was going to. But just getting stuck on secondary stuff and spending too much time with that rather than going for the big time patterns, or the big places I had, which some of them I couldn't even get on. So, like the guy that finished 11th, he camped on one of my prime spots the entire day. The entire day he sat there. So I never got to throw one cast there. And that's how tournament fishing is. You have to roll with the punches and fight the battle that's going on out there, fight the strategy, strategize well, strategize against the fish, strategize against your opponents. A lot of people say it's all about just the fish. It's all about beating the fish and catching the fish. That's step one. I 100% agree. I 100% agree that that's step one. But you also have to out-strategize your opponents to a degree. And by that I mean, you have to select places where, just the way you rotate your places where you're fishing. It's like, I don't know, there's just a certain, you have to play into effect what other anglers are doing out there in the water, where they're fishing, how they're fishing. You got to factor that in. For example, if I see a guy fishing a place where I want to fish and he's throwing a spinnerbait, well, I know I can go in there after him and maybe catch some fish on like a shaky head worm or something, for example. So you got to pay attention to what your other competitors are doing. It's easiest to just black that out and not even worry about it. But I think, there's been times where that's, you just got to pay attention to what's going on and how spots in the lake are being utilized, which spots in the lake are being utilized. And I'm not saying you just go, just because you see somebody in a certain spot and you've never been there, you just go fish there. I'm not saying that at all, because that's not what I do. I'm just saying you just be aware how the places how they're, how much pressure they're getting. Because that's the other thing I'll say is, I did get on some better water yesterday, and you could tell that those fish had been pressured just watching them on my Lowrance active target and how they were reacting to the baits. I could tell how that those fish were just more pressured, and there are obvious spots. They probably saw a lot of action and they probably saw a lot of visits in practice, In the tournament, I seen guys on it, but then, you know, I'd see nobody there. You know, I saw nobody on this one particular spot, and I'm like, okay, I'll go over there. And some of these places have so many fish, you're still going to get a couple fish no matter what. But in this case, I didn't. There was plenty of fish there, and some of them came and looked at my bait and it faded away off of it. And, so that ended up being a waste of time. And at that point, you don't know, are the fish just that off now, or is it that these fish have been pressured? You don't know. Well, I found that out because my last stop in the afternoon session, and my afternoon session had gone terrible. I mean, I was just struggling to get bites, struggling to even find fish on the Lowrance active target. And so I finally went to a spot from the morning session that I really wasn't going to go to because it had nothing but small fish, but at least it had, had some fish. So I stopped there at the end of the day, just like, okay, I'm down here around 40th place or whatever. If I can pull up here and catch 3 or 4 fish, that'll at least pull me up some. And who knows? Maybe I'll catch a big one or two. You just never know. So, anyways, I pulled up there, and those fish were just hot and ready to go. I'd seen nobody fishing it all day. So I think I was the only one that had that spot, and probably the only one that even pressured those fish in practice, because I never saw anybody there in practice. And sure enough, I pull in there and I'm catching fish instantly, and they're coming. I mean, I'm watching them rise up to the bait and just eat it. So these fish, the fish were biting. They were active. You just had to find the ones that hadn't been pressured so hard, and that's how you could catch them. Either that, or you have superior technique, which I don't think I necessarily may have had. So I don't know, but I do like this little Nico rig that I had going. I felt like that if I got around the unpressured fish, that seems like I could, if I threw it into a group of like 2, 3, 4 or more fish, one of them was going to grab it for sure. And just about every time that happened. There's only a couple times when I threw it into like a group of like 3 to 5 fish or 6 fish where all of them would swim up to it and look at it and turn away. That only happened like just a couple times. It's the single fish that are hard to get to bite. Those are the ones that rise up to the bait. They're all by themselves. They don't feel any pressure from any of their brothers and sisters to eat it before they get it. So it gives them extra scrutiny, extra time to really contemplate what's going on. And a lot of those single fish just end up fading off the bait. So, which makes it key to find those areas that had lots of fish, because they were going to be in competition with each other for your bait. And that's where I got sidetracked in the afternoon. I just started getting fish in areas where it's like, hey, I caught one good one over here in practice and no other. So I'd go over there where I caught a 3.5 pounder, and I'd saw like 1 or 2 fish, neither one would bite. And meanwhile, I spent like 20-25 minutes there, and you can't have dead in these tournaments where it's catch all you can. Just dead time when you're not catching anything is sends you tumbling down the standings. So, what else can I say? I did qualify. The goals that I had for this tour. One, being Angler of the Year. That's now impossible. After 3 tournaments, I'm 12th in the Angler of the Year points. We have just 1 tournament left. So really, I'm too far behind the points. There's too many, and more importantly, there's too many guys between me and the top position that it's too many points to make up. So, to overtake that many guys, it's just not going to happen. And with only 1 tournament left, and that 1 tournament is going to have a field of 32 or 33 boats, because that's their championship, which is the other goal I had, which was to make the championship. And really, I had already made the championship, because I basically had enough points after the first 2 tournaments to barely catch anything in this tournament and still make the championship. So that was accomplished. And in the championship, we can win a brand new boat. So that's one of the best things going in Minnesota circuits. There's not a whole lot of boats available to win around here. That's one of them. that's one reason why I compete in this tour. All right, well, let's talk about just a couple of the baits that I was throwing. One would be well, I'll just show you my number one bait from the competition, and that was a Nico rig, curly tail worm like this. It's Billy Rub Baits made this worm for me. Thank you, Bill, for doing that. This bait actually was doing a good job yesterday. I don't think there was any issue with me with the fish not wanting. I mean, you're not going to catch all the fish you see, and I was happy with the number of fish that were coming to grab this bait, because in practice it seemed like with a lot of the other things I was doing, I wasn't, I was having less success. And when I settled on this in the tournament, it took me a while to get to this in the morning, but when I finally did, I realized this was what they wanted. And then here's the other thing. So this is the last worm I had tied on my rod. Now notice that little curly tail's not even on there. It didn't matter, because a lot of times you'll have a yellow perch or a bluegill or a rock bass or even a little bass tear that little tail off of there. It didn't matter. I'd just keep fishing it the way it was and still keep catching them. So, and I've done that on other lakes, same thing. It just, especially with the smallmouth, it really, either way, they'll bite it either way, it seems like. And sometimes I think they want it without the tail. So which makes it almost more like kind of a Ned Riggy kind of a setup. All right, so here's another mistake I made, which revolves around this next lure. Because we had a big front come through on Monday, the tournament was yesterday and Tuesday. Monday was major weather system, major weather coming through. Lots of rain, heavy clouds, fish were on fire. So then we come tournament morning, it's cool, it's high sun to start the morning, and I'm like, there's no way they're gonna hit a top water. There's no way they're gonna go for the top water. I'm not even gonna try. Big mistake. Because, and I've seen this before, where even after a cool down, after a weather system, and you got the cool down, those smallies will hit the top water right away in the morning. The top water bite might quit, whereas on a good top water day, where it might be hot and muggy, or it's hot, muggy, and cloudy, good top water day like that, they'll drill it all day long. On a cool down, bright sunny skies, post front, the front's gone through, cleared away, you got high bluebird skies, and you've got dry air, cooler air, they'll still bite that top water in the morning. It ain't gonna last long, but they will. And that was a mistake I did. I probably could have caught a few more fish in that morning, that first hour, by fishing the top water, but I didn't. I was going with the Nico rig. You saw, well, not even that. I was mainly going with the swim bait to start. So anyhow, here is the top water I chose. This was the one I ended up with. This is the a walking bait in this color pattern. It just happened to be the one I picked. I fished it in practice, got some bites. I threw some smaller poppers in practice. It didn't seem like I got any better bites on that. And with a little bit of a chop in the morning, I could walk this bait better than I could work a popper. So that's why I went with that instead of a popper, just because I could just work it better. A little bigger bait than that popper, the other popper I had in mind. So you get a little more commotion in the chop. But the problem I had with top waters the whole practice session was just them short striking it, just bumping it, rolling behind it, nipping at, coming up and doing a nip roll on it. Just hooking up the fish was a real problem. But I did catch my biggest fish. I didn't pick that up until about a half hour into the morning. And right away I caught my biggest fish of the day, 2 3/4 pounder. And I'd seen a couple fish come up on the surface, but I don't know. I just felt like I'd have better hookup ratios with my finesse rigs, and but it just, I don't know. It just wasn't. I don't know. The finesse rigs weren't working that first half hour very well at all for some reason. Here's the other finesse rig. I didn't fish it a whole lot yesterday. In practice, I used it a lot to cover water, and I did catch a fair number of fish with it. And that would have been I tried different sizes heads, different size tails. So this was a 3-inch paddle tail bait that Billy Rub Baits poured for me, and I put it on an 1/8 ounce darter head. That combination it seemed like the heavier heads I didn't do as well on. I wanted the lighter head, and so that's what I went with. I also went with a weightless 4-inch Senko for a little bit too. And that was one thing I started with that in the morning, and I did lose a fish on it, but I wasn't covering the water like I could have with the top water. So that just, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. By the end of the day, I'll tell you what, by the end of the competition, I felt like I didn't know how to catch anything. I really didn't, because I just felt like I'm not worthy of being a tournament fisherman, because I'm 34th place out of 64. On a place I just practiced for 6 days. I don't know. I just did not. Too much time in dead water. That did not help. Too much time in dead water. That in secondary, just non-happening water is what happened. If I would have took that Nico rig into some other better areas, I would have saw more success for sure. And areas that weren't pressured quite so bad either. So I don't know. I have just as many questions after this tournament as I have answers. That's for sure. So what else? Yeah, just, I don't know. Entire bait categories I discounted that actually work. It just, one thing I never heard anybody say anything about was A-rig. We could use A-rigs if you wanted to. I didn't hear anybody say anything about an A-rig. I guess when they show the film, put the video together, we'll see for sure. I didn't hear anybody say anything about a jerk bait. I did catch some in practice on a jerk bait, but it was just kind of sporadic, and I might have set it down too soon, but because the last couple of days of practice, I never even picked it up. Because by then I was kind of starting to dial in on this finesse routine or topwater. I still kept the topwater idea in play, and I maybe should have prioritized it a little higher. So, and just spot selection. I had some good places to fish that I never went to. And another example is, I believe the winner. Well, there's a picture of the winner on Facebook. The guy that won the tournament, saying he was north of the I-94 bridge. Well, I had some good stuff north of the I-94 bridge that I never even went to, because there's a 1.7 mile slow zone, where we went out of is in the center of that. So you kind of have, once you commit, if you're going to go fish south of the slow zone, you pretty much have to commit to it, because you're not going to go there and then go all the way up slow zone, all the way up to the other end, and then come back down through the slow zone to be back to check-in. It's just, you're killing way too much time. So once you decide to go upriver, you go upriver. Once you decide to go downriver, you go downriver. And So there was some, and I watched. I was open to going upriver. Well, once they started once they started letting boats out, and I was watching to see how many guys. I was boat 47, so I was watching to see how many guys were going upriver and how many guys are going downriver. And that's another point to what I said earlier about you do got to pay attention to what your other guys are doing. And for what I thought was good water upriver, I just felt like I saw too many boats go upriver for the amount of water that I had up there. And if enough of these guys went to the places where I thought were good, well then those fish would have been, I mean, everybody would have caught some, but nobody would have excelled out of the pack. However, I'm wrong. I could be, looks like I might be wrong, because the winner, Walker Crampet's his name. Congratulations, Walker, by the way. I think he won last year too on Lahamdu. But anyhow, I mean, they showed him up in the caption. It said he's upriver, fishing. So apparently, he figured out how to deal with everything and catch his fish up there. So I don't know. I guess this video's done, because I mean, if anything else I'll say is probably irrelevant to being useful to you guys. So thanks for watching the video, and the next tournament will be my Bassmaster Open on Leech Lake in a couple weeks, probably less than 2 weeks now. And then immediately after that, like, that tournament ends on a Sunday. Then 2 days later on Tuesday, no, the Bassmaster Open ends on a Saturday. Then 3 days later is the tournament on Lake Minnewaska, and that's the one in like by Glenwood and Starbuck here in Minnesota. That's where the Champions Tour tournament will be. So I got about a week and a half to regroup and just reevaluate, take a break, and then I got 2 really big tournaments. Leech Lake is freaking an hour from my house. Everybody's gonna expect me to freaking run away with it, but that ain't gonna happen, because I mean, I'd like for it to happen, but the masters of forward sonar are gonna do well there. I mean, there's gonna be a lot. It's just, at least I think they will. You never know. But that's a whole nother issue. I mean, they may not, actually. It kind of depends. So anyhow, I guess my point is, my experience out on Leech Lake is not that much, even though now I live about an hour away, and it's off limits now, so I can't spend any time out there until official practice. So, but I am looking forward to it, and I do feel some extra. I do feel a little bit extra pressure to protect my home field, for sure. Which, I mean, I really do. I'm like, there's been a few times in my life where I felt that way, and I've come through. So maybe it can happen again, because I doggone it, I do not want somebody coming in from from outstate and taking this thing down. I just don't want that. There's a certain amount of pride I have in myself and my fellow competitors from this state, which we've made. Fishermen, pro anglers from Minnesota have made a statement in the last few years, and it's really cool to see. To cap it off would have been Seth Feider's being crowned as the Angler of the Year for the Bassmaster Elites a couple years ago. That just adds a lot of legitimacy to all of us Minnesota anglers, that we're not, We're not just, you know, an afterthought when we show up at tournaments. And now look at how many guys from Minnesota are in the elites. I mean, we've got, and if I forget someone, I apologize. But I mean, we got Seth Fighter, we got Austin Felix, we had Josh Douglas, Bob Downey, and there's probably another one. Anyways, just whatever. And then we got guys went in tournaments and like Keith Tuma won the Bass Open on the Harris Chain in Florida a couple years back. So yeah, we got guys that can get it done. There's going to be a good contingency of Minnesota pros in this Leech Lake tournament. So yeah, hopefully one of us takes it down. Obviously I want it to be me, but I hope it's one of us that takes it down. Anyways, I've had enough of this sun shining down in my face, in my eyes. I've had enough of, yeah, that's about it. Time to move on to my next chapter. Over.